Islam is a major world religion. It has over 1.8 billion followers globally. This makes it the second largest faith in the world. Muslims come from diverse cultures and speak many languages. They live on every continent. Despite this vast diversity, they share a common faith in one God, known in Arabic as Allah. They also believe in the teachings of the Quran and the Prophet Muhammad. Understanding Islam requires looking beyond what we often see in news headlines. These headlines can sometimes paint a picture that is not complete. They might focus on conflict and extremism, which are not representative of the faith as a whole. This essay will explore the peaceful core of Islam. The word Islam itself has a deep connection to peace. It comes from the Arabic root word SLM. This root has several meanings, including peace, submission, and safety. So a Muslim is one who submits to God. This submission is meant to bring inner peace to the individual. It is also meant to foster peace in society. The greetings exchanged by Muslims, Assalamu alaikum, means peace be upon you. This greeting is a constant reminder of the importance of peace in daily life. It is a wish for safety and well-being extended to others. This fundamental aspect of the faith often gets lost in wider discussions about Islam. Many people today associate Islam with violence. This is a serious misunderstanding. It is important to look at the core teachings of the religion. These teachings emphasize compassion, forgiveness, and justice. The Quran, which Muslims believe is the word of God, contains many verses about peace. It also has verses about showing kindness to others, regardless of their background. The life of Prophet Muhammad also provides many examples of peaceful conduct. He showed tolerance towards people of other faiths. He always preferred peace over conflict whenever possible. These foundational elements are crucial to understanding Islam's true nature. This essay aims to provide a clearer picture of Islam. It will discuss the teachings that promote peace and tolerance. We will look at historical examples of how these principles were put into practice. We will see how Muslim leaders and societies created environments of coexistence. The essay will also address some common misconceptions. It will explain how political factors, not religious teachings, are often the cause of conflict. By exploring these aspects, we can gain a more balanced understanding of Islam. It is a faith with a rich history of promoting peace and understanding among people. This message is very relevant in our world today. The Quran is the central religious text of Islam. Muslims believe it to be the literal word of God revealed to Prophet Muhammad. It contains many verses that guide Muslims on how to live peaceful lives. One important verse says, "O you who have believed, enter into peace completely and perfectly." Quran 2:208. This verse directly calls believers to embrace peace in all aspects of their lives. It is not just about avoiding war, it is about creating a state of peace within oneself and within society. This call for complete peace shows its importance in the Islamic faith. It is a guiding principle for individual behavior and community relations. Another key teaching in the Quran is about justice. The Quran states, "O you who have believed, be persistently standing firm in justice, witnesses for Allah, even if it be against yourselves or parents and relatives." Quran 4:135. This verse highlights the importance of upholding justice. It must be upheld even if it is difficult or goes against one's own interests. Justice is seen as a cornerstone of a peaceful society. Without justice, grievances can grow and lead to conflict. Islam teaches that true peace cannot be achieved without fairness and equity for all people. This commitment to justice is universal, applying to Muslims and non-Muslims alike. The Quran also emphasizes forgiveness and reconciliation. It encourages Muslims to forgive those who have wronged them. Forgiveness is considered a noble act. The Quran says, "And the recompense of an evil is an evil like it. But whoever pardons and makes reconciliation, his reward is due from Allah." Quran 42:40. This teaching promotes a culture of letting go of hatred and seeking peaceful resolutions. Instead of seeking revenge, Muslims are encouraged to opt for pardon. This helps to break cycles of violence and build bridges between people. The emphasis on reconciliation aims to restore harmony in relationships and communities. Furthermore, the Quran forbids aggression. It permits fighting only in self-defense or to protect the oppressed. The Quran clearly states, "Fight in the way of Allah those who fight you but do not transgress." Indeed, Allah does not like transgressors. Quran 2:190. This verse sets strict limits on warfare. It means that Muslims should not initiate hostilities. If fighting becomes necessary, it must be conducted justly. The rules of engagement in Islam prohibit harming non-combatants such as women, children, and the elderly. It also forbids the destruction of crops and property unnecessarily. These rules aim to minimize harm and ensure that conflict does not escalate beyond what is absolutely necessary. Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet in Islam. Muslims see him as a role model. His life, known as the Sunnah, provides practical examples of how to live according to Islamic teachings. One of his most prominent titles given in the Quran is a mercy to the worlds, Quran 21:107. This title reflects his compassionate and merciful nature. He consistently showed kindness not only to his followers but also to his enemies. His actions demonstrated a deep commitment to peace and forgiveness. Many stories from his life illustrate these qualities. These stories are studied by Muslims to learn how to behave in their own lives. A powerful example of Prophet Muhammad's forbearance was the conquest of Mecca. For many years, the people of Mecca had persecuted Muhammad and his followers. They drove them out of the city. They fought wars against them. When Muhammad eventually returned to Mecca as a victor, he had the power to take revenge. However, he chose forgiveness. He granted a general amnesty to the people of Mecca. He asked them, "What do you think I will do to you?" They replied, "You are a noble brother, son of a noble brother." He then said, "Go, you are free." This act of magnanimity transformed his former enemies into allies and established peace. The Charter of Medina is another significant example of Prophet Muhammad's commitment to peaceful coexistence. When Muhammad migrated to Medina, the city was home to various tribes. These included Muslim immigrants, local Arab tribes who became Muslim, and several Jewish tribes. The Prophet established a constitution known as the Charter of Medina. This document created a framework for peaceful relations among all these groups. It guaranteed religious freedom and mutual protection for all communities living in Medina. It established them as one community, or Ummah, despite their different faiths. This charter is considered one of an early example of a pluralistic society established on principles of justice and cooperation. Throughout his life, Prophet Muhammad made treaties and alliances. He always preferred peaceful negotiations over conflict. He taught his followers to be kind to their neighbors, regardless of their faith. He emphasized the importance of caring for the poor, the orphans, and the vulnerable. His teachings and actions consistently promoted a message of peace, compassion, and social justice. He instructed his followers to avoid extremism in religion. He told them to make things easy for people and not difficult. These examples show that the Prophet of Islam was truly a messenger of peace. His life serves as an enduring guide for Muslims seeking to build peaceful societies. The concept of Ummah in Islam refers to the global community of Muslims. It is a unique idea of a collective bound by faith rather than by race, nationality, or geography. The Quran describes the Ummah as a justly balanced community, Quran 2:143. This means it should be a community that avoids extremes. It should strive for moderation and fairness in all its affairs. The ideal Ummah is one where members support each other. They should care for one another's well-being. This sense of shared identity is meant to foster unity and cooperation among Muslims worldwide. It is a call for solidarity based on shared values. Compassion is a foundational principle for the Ummah. Prophet Muhammad said, "The believers in their mutual kindness, compassion, and sympathy are just like one body. When one of the limbs suffers, the whole body responds to it with wakefulness and fever." This powerful analogy emphasizes the deep connection that should exist among Muslims. If one part of the Ummah is suffering, the rest should feel it and offer help. This teaching encourages empathy and active support for fellow Muslims in need. It extends beyond material help to include emotional and spiritual support. This interconnectedness is vital for the health and strength of the community. The compassion of the Ummah is not meant to be exclusive. While it emphasizes bonds among Muslims, Islamic teachings also guide how the Ummah should interact with other communities. The Quran encourages kindness and good relations with non-Muslims who are not hostile. It says, "Allah does not forbid you from those who do not fight you because of religion, and do not expel you from your homes, from being righteous toward them and acting justly toward them. Indeed, Allah loves those who act justly." Quran 68. This verse provides a clear instruction for peaceful coexistence. It encourages Muslims to treat peaceful non-Muslims with fairness and kindness. Building a compassionate Ummah also involves promoting social justice. This includes caring for the poor, the needy, orphans, and travelers. The institution of zakat, or obligatory charity, is one of the 5 pillars of Islam. It ensures that wealth is redistributed within the community. This helps to reduce poverty and inequality. The concept of Ummah, therefore, is not just about spiritual unity. It is also about creating a just and caring society. It is a society where the rights of all individuals are protected, and where everyone has the opportunity to live a dignified life. This vision of a compassionate global community remains a core aspiration for Muslims. Section 5. Historical Harmony, the Golden Age in Al-Andalus. Al-Andalus, or Islamic Spain, is a prominent historical example of tolerance and peace. For several centuries, from the 8th to the 15th century, Muslims, Christians, and Jews lived together there. This period is often referred to as a Golden Age. It was a time of remarkable cultural and intellectual flourishing. Scholars from different faiths collaborated in centers of learning like Cordoba, Toledo, and Granada. They translated ancient Greek texts into Arabic. These translations later found their way to Europe, sparking the Renaissance. This era demonstrates that different religious communities can coexist peacefully and productively under Islamic rule. The rulers of Al-Andalus, for the most part, practiced religious tolerance. Non-Muslims, known as dhimmis, protected people, were allowed to practice their own religions. They had their own laws and courts for their communities. They were required to pay a special tax called jizya. In return, they received protection from the state and were exempt from military service. While not perfect by modern standards, this system provided a level of religious freedom that was rare in other parts of the world at that time. Many Jews, for example, fled persecution in other parts of Europe and found refuge and opportunity in Al-Andalus. The city of Cordoba was a shining example of this era. In the 10th century, it was one of the largest and most advanced cities in the world. It had paved streets, streetlights, hospitals, and libraries. The Great Mosque of Cordoba, now a cathedral, was an architectural marvel. Scholars, poets, musicians, and scientists from all three faiths thrived in this environment. They made significant contributions to fields like medicine, mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, and literature. This intellectual vibrancy was a direct result of the prevailing atmosphere of tolerance and cross-cultural exchange. It shows how peace can lead to progress. Of course, the history of Al-Andalus was not always peaceful. There were periods of conflict and tension. However, the overall legacy of Al-Andalus is one of remarkable coexistence. It stands as a testament to Islam's capacity for religious tolerance. It shows that Islamic principles can indeed create societies where different faiths can live together and enrich one another. The cultural achievements of Al-Andalus continue to inspire people today. They remind us of the possibilities that arise when people choose understanding and cooperation over division and conflict. This historical example is very important for understanding Islam's approach to diversity. Section 6. Governance and Tolerance, the Ottoman Millet System. The Ottoman Empire was another major Islamic power that ruled for over 6 centuries. It controlled vast territories in Southeast Europe, North Africa, and the Middle East. The empire was home to diverse populations with different religions and ethnicities. To govern this diverse society, the Ottomans developed a system known as the millet system. This system allowed non-Muslim religious communities, or millets, a significant degree of autonomy. Each millet was headed by its own religious leader, such as a patriarch for Orthodox Christians or a chief rabbi for Jews. These leaders were responsible for their communities before the Sultan. Under the millet system, each religious community could manage its own internal affairs. This included matters of personal status like marriage, divorce, and inheritance. They could use their own language, run their own schools, and collect their own taxes. They were also allowed to apply their own religious laws within their communities. In return for this autonomy and protection by the Ottoman state, non-Muslims paid the jizya tax. This system allowed different religious groups to maintain their distinct identities and traditions. It was a practical way of managing a multi-religious empire and fostering a degree of peaceful coexistence for centuries. Figures like Sultan Mehmed II, the conqueror of Constantinople, Istanbul, played a role in establishing this tolerant framework. After conquering the city in 1453, he invited the Greek Orthodox Patriarch Gennadius Scholarius to remain. He assured the Christian population that they could continue to practice their religion freely. He also encouraged Jews fleeing persecution in Spain and other parts of Europe to settle in Ottoman lands. This policy of welcoming religious minorities continued under later sultans. For example, Sultan Bayezid II famously welcomed Sephardic Jews expelled from Spain in 1492. He believed their skills and knowledge would benefit the empire. The millet system, like any historical system, had its complexities and limitations. Over time, especially in the later centuries of the empire, there were challenges and changes. Nationalism and external political pressures sometimes strained intercommunal relations. However, for a significant period, the millet system provided a framework for religious tolerance that was quite advanced for its time. It allowed different faiths to live side by side under Islamic rule. This historical example demonstrates that Islamic governance has, in practice, found ways to accommodate religious diversity and promote a measure of peace among different communities within its domain. Section 7. Deconstructing Jihad, Beyond the Misconception of Holy War. The term jihad is one of the most misunderstood concepts in Islam. In the Western world, it is often translated as holy war. This translation is inaccurate and misleading. It contributes to the misconception that Islam is an inherently violent religion. The Arabic word jihad literally means to struggle or to strive. It refers to any effort made in a righteous cause. It is a broad concept with multiple meanings. Understanding its true scope is crucial for a correct understanding of Islam's teachings on effort, struggle and, when necessary, defense. The most important form of jihad, according to many Islamic scholars, is the greater jihad, al-jihad al-akbar. This is the internal struggle against one's own negative inclinations and desires. It is the struggle to become a better person. This involves striving to be more patient, more compassionate, more honest, and more devout. It is a continuous effort to purify oneself and live in accordance with God's will. This internal spiritual struggle is considered far more significant and difficult than any external struggle. It is a personal commitment to self-improvement and moral development. This is the primary meaning of jihad for most Muslims. There is also the lesser jihad, al-jihad al-asghar. This refers to the external struggle. This can take many forms. It can mean striving to create a just society. It can mean working to spread knowledge and understanding. It can also, in very specific circumstances, refer to armed struggle. However, even this form of jihad has strict rules and conditions in Islam. As mentioned earlier, the Quran permits fighting only in self-defense or to protect the oppressed from aggression. It strictly forbids initiating hostilities or harming non-combatants. It is not a license for indiscriminate violence or terrorism. Terrorist groups and extremists often misuse and distort the concept of jihad. They use it to justify their violent actions. These actions are condemned by the vast majority of Muslims and Islamic scholars. Their interpretation of jihad is a gross deviation from mainstream Islamic teachings. True jihad, in the context of armed struggle, is a last resort. It must be declared by a legitimate authority. It must adhere to strict ethical guidelines. The actions of extremist groups who claim to be waging jihad are a betrayal of Islamic principles. They cause immense harm to both Muslims and non-Muslims. They also damage the image of Islam worldwide. Section 8. Politics, Power, and Misrepresentation. Why Islam is misunderstood. Many misconceptions about Islam and violence stem from political factors, not from the religion itself. Throughout history and in modern times, religion has often been manipulated for political purposes. Conflicts that are essentially about land, resources, or political power are sometimes framed as religious wars. This misrepresentation can lead people to believe that Islam itself promotes violence. However, a closer look often reveals that the root causes of these conflicts are political, social, or economic. Religion becomes a tool used by political actors to mobilize support or legitimize their actions. Unfortunately, Islam has frequently been subjected to such manipulations. Colonialism and post-colonial struggles have also played a significant role. Many Muslim-majority countries have experienced long periods of foreign domination and intervention. The struggles for independence and self-determination have sometimes involved violence. In some cases, Islamic symbols and language were used to rally people against colonial powers. Later, in the post-colonial era, internal power struggles and geopolitical interference have continued to fuel conflicts in many Muslim regions. These conflicts are complex. Attributing them solely to religion oversimplifies the reality. It ignores the deep historical and political grievances that often drive them. The rise of extremist groups in recent decades has further distorted the image of Islam. Groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS commit heinous acts of violence in the name of Islam. However, their ideologies are rejected by the overwhelming majority of Muslims worldwide. These groups represent a fringe interpretation that twists religious texts to serve their violent political agendas. Their actions are a perversion of Islamic teachings on peace, justice, and compassion. It is crucial to distinguish between the actions of these extremist minorities and the beliefs and practices of the global Muslim population. Mainstream Islamic scholarship consistently denounces terrorism and extremism. Media representation also plays a part in shaping public perception. Often, news coverage tends to focus on conflict and violence in Muslim-majority countries. Positive stories about peace, development, or everyday life in these regions receive less attention. This selective focus can create a skewed and negative image of Islam and Muslims. It reinforces stereotypes and prejudices. To gain a balanced understanding, it is important to seek diverse sources of information. One must critically examine how political narratives and media portrayals might be influencing one's views on an entire faith and its followers. The real teachings of Islam emphasize peace, not the political violence often associated with its name. Section 9. Conclusion: Islam's enduring message of peace for today's world. In conclusion, Islam, at its core, is a religion that champions peace, tolerance, and justice. The very name Islam signifies submission to God, which leads to inner and outer peace. The Quran, the holy book of Muslims, is filled with verses that call for forgiveness, compassion, and harmonious coexistence. It sets clear guidelines against aggression and injustice. These teachings encourage believers to build societies based on fairness and mutual respect. The life and example of Prophet Muhammad further reinforce this message. He consistently demonstrated mercy, forbearance, and a preference for peaceful resolution of disputes. His interactions with people of other faiths set a precedent for tolerance. Throughout history, many Muslim leaders and societies have strived to implement these peaceful principles. Examples like Al-Andalus in Spain show periods of remarkable interfaith harmony and cultural exchange. The Ottoman millet system, for all its complexities, provided a framework for diverse religious communities to manage their own affairs and live together. These instances, among others, demonstrate that the ideals of peace and tolerance are not just theoretical in Islam. They have been put into practice, leading to flourishing civilizations. These historical precedents offer valuable lessons for our contemporary world, which is often marked by division and conflict. Common misconceptions about Islam being inherently violent often arise from a misunderstanding or deliberate misrepresentation of its teachings. Concepts like jihad are frequently distorted to paint a picture of a warmongering faith. However, the true meaning of jihad primarily emphasizes the internal struggle for self-improvement and, when external, is governed by strict ethical codes that forbid aggression and terrorism. Furthermore, many conflicts attributed to Islam are, in reality, driven by political, economic, or social factors. Extremist groups who commit violence in the name of Islam are a fringe minority whose actions contradict the fundamental tenets of the faith. The teachings of Islam on peace and tolerance remain profoundly relevant today. In a world grappling with misunderstandings, prejudice, and conflict, the Islamic call for compassion, justice, and dialogue offers a path towards greater understanding and cooperation. By focusing on the core principles of the faith and learning from its rich history of coexistence, both Muslims and non-Muslims can work together. They can build bridges of communication and foster a global environment where peace can truly flourish. Understanding the peaceful essence of Islam is not just an academic exercise, it is a vital step towards creating a more harmonious and tolerant world for all people, regardless of their faith or background.